Welcome to Dear Leaders, Love Your People, the podcast where we tackle bite-sized leadership topics from the perspective that we often miss, your people's perspective. So you can think of this as that anonymous suggestion box that you have where everybody in the room tells you what they're thinking, but it's not really that anonymous because I'll be the one sharing it with you. My name is Brandy Sperling. I'm a keynote speaker. I've been in learning and development for over 6 years, and I have trained over 5,000 leaders in my career on topics like we're going to tackle. Here's what you're going to get. Episodes under 20 minutes, all with a downloadable leader guide, because if you can't implement everything that we talk about immediately on the other side of the podcast, what's the point? And it's all focused on helping you to get better. Because guess what happens when you, our leaders, get better? We get better. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get into today's episode. Dear leaders, today I think we need to talk about something that we all experience. There's not a single leader out there, no matter where you are, whether you're listening to this in the United States, or whether you're listening to this in the UK, every single one of us experience this thing. And it's change. It's change. If you're a leader and you are not rolling out change to your team or navigating change with your team in some way, big or small, I think you need to stop listening to this podcast right now and send me a message because I want to know what you're doing. I want to know what you're doing. We all are experiencing change. I feel like it's the thing that we can't get away from, obviously, because it's life. But even more than that, we can't get away from it as leaders because we have to be thinking about how it impacts our people. This is such a fresh podcast for me because our team at Spree Culture Co. is experiencing change. In fact, Spree is our new name. That's the big change we've been experiencing. We used to be a company called Sage Culture Co. We're a learning and development company. We updated our name to be Spree Culture Co. I'll save you the backstory. It's just rife with some cease and desists and stuff that I don't really want to talk about. But you should know that we took it as an opportunity and we are so excited about it. And it feels like such an opportunity for us to seize and to grab onto. And that's what we've been doing. So 2 weeks ago, we rolled out a new name. And as a leader, as a founder of a company, I think I'll be honest, I think I've almost fumbled this opportunity, or maybe I did. Maybe my people are listening to this and they're like, no, you did fumble it, Brandy. You straight up did. Because I didn't quite think about what this change was going to do for our people. I did think about it from the sense of we have to change our email, we need to change our website, like all those tiny changes. Tiny, they don't feel like they're tiny, I'll be honest. All those, administrative changes, but I didn't consider early enough, I think, is where I think I fumbled it. I didn't consider early enough the changes that it was going to do for the people working within the organization. And the irony about that is that I've been studying this. I mean, I've been in the learning and development world for over 6 years now. I have my master's in strategic leadership, and we had a whole class on change management. I'm not new to this topic. And when I sat down to record this podcast, obviously, I always have like this curse of knowledge to where I think, oh, well, this isn't worth sharing because everybody should know this. But then it dawns on me, I'm like, well, I know it, and I also didn't do it. I know it, and I also didn't take all the opportunities to be able to lean on the knowledge that I have and implement it into my team because it's hard. Change is hard in the moment. You don't often think about all of the ways that it can impact our people, the internal resistance that happens with change, the, questions, the conflict, all of the things that change can bring up because we are human beings and we are not necessarily made to be able to navigate change well. There are a couple of books that I read that helped me understand this concept of especially the neuroscience of change. One of them was Wired to Resist. It's a book by Dr. Britt Andriotta, and it's all about what happens in your people's brain and yours when we're all experiencing change. So it's the neuroscience of change. The second book I read was Twilight by Stephanie Myers, and it's what happens when a human changes into a vampire, which, good book too. I would recommend the first one if you're going to read any on change. And that book obviously, set me up to have all of the information that I needed on how my people could be resisting change and what I could do for them to help mitigate those effects. And I almost missed the opportunity. I just straight up almost missed it because I got so in the weeds of the details and the transactional pieces of change that I missed the transformational ones, the ones where we get to make sure that our people are on board with the change, that we're supporting them in really intentional ways, and that we're taking their perspectives to help inform the change on the other side. I almost missed all of that. And I know how important it is to receive it because I've been a person reporting to leaders so many times where these leaders just missed the mark. They rolled out a change and it sent us all into a fury. It sent us all into this scattered little chicken coop with everybody running every which way and the leader just going, what, And I think that's what happens. I think leaders, you as a leader, me as a leader, we get caught up in let's host a meeting, let's roll out the change in the boardroom, and then, all right, you heard it once, now let's go. Feet on the ground, running. And the reality is that it's just not that fast always. People aren't always wired to just receive information, hit the ground running, and be able to connect all of the dots for what it means for them on the other side and be productive through the change. So that's what I want to do. I want to share with you things that you could be thinking about that I wish I would have had from my leaders when I was reporting to them, and things that I am trying to now think about as I'm helping my team through this change that we're experiencing, and hopefully future ones, because we're going to have more. Hopefully they're less name changing-y, I could do with less of that change. So here's the thing, three things that we can do, but I put these 3 things in your leader guide. So don't forget, you've got a leader guide. And this leader guide is designed for you to be able to download it. Literally, no catch. There's no catch here. It's just genuinely a printable guide that has all of the things that I'm about to talk to you about and actionable steps that you can take to implement it into your team.
Hey people leaders, first off, shout out to you for tuning into this podcast. That's already a huge investment in becoming a better leader. But what if you could take it a step further? That's where People Leader Learning comes in. It's a game-changing resource built for leaders by leaders, with self-paced interactive courses that are jam-packed with tools and resources you can use immediately. Get the Leading Through Culture bundle with 4 courses designed to help you grow your culture and your people. Hiring for culture fit, leading through culture, navigating performance reviews, and growing feedback. Explore more at peopleleaderlearning.com. Keep growing, because your culture only grows when you do.
Okay, here it is. The first thing you and I are going to do better when we are helping our teams through change is we are going to get better at communicating it in the first place. And when it comes to communicating it, I'm not just saying, hey, here's a change. We're going through this change. We're going to say, hey, here's this change. Here's why we're going through it. Here's what it means for you. And here's why it's important for you and I to go through this together. We sometimes miss this opportunity because if you're like me, you get so bogged down in the transactional pieces of change that we forget that human beings' brains are working every single moment of every single day, which means when we give our team change, the first thing their brains are going to do is to decide whether or not this change is safe for them or not. When we communicate change, it's now up to us to communicate with that in mind. Our team is looking to us to gauge whether or not this is safe or not. With a name change like what we're going through, nothing's changing on the other side aside from our name. And if anything is changing, it's for the opportunity for all of us. But what I realized, we were about 2 weeks out from our name change. We're planning this party. We're inviting everybody to it. Our team knows we're changing emails. They know we're changing websites. But it dawned on me that I hadn't communicated to them what the opportunity was on the other side. I hadn't told them that this marks the moment where I view all of us, all of these doors are going to open for all of us. I have this information. I am sitting here going, this is exciting. This is exciting. I'm telling the world that I think it's exciting because I do. I believe it's exciting. But 2 weeks before this name change, I realized, wait a minute. I haven't actually talked to our team about this. I haven't shared what my vision is on the other side of this name change. Don't at me. I know. I'm so embarrassed by this. I know my team must have seen that email come through of like team meeting and they were like, finally Finally, Brandy, it's about time we had this meeting. So that's our role. That's your role. That's my role, is not only to communicate what the change is, but to really be able to put it into perspective about what the opportunities are for your people on the other side. What does this open up for us? Why is it important? How is it going to impact their day-to-day? How is it going to impact their relationship with their work? What opportunities are there? So what does this actually look like for us to put into play? I mean, for our team, it meant calling a meeting 2 weeks before our launch date, which probably could have been sooner, but I guess better late than never. For you, it might be different. For you, it might be a team meeting, or it might be one-on-ones with all of your team members individually, or maybe it's a combination of both. There's truly no right or wrong way to do it as long as you're doing it. The wrong way is to not have these conversations. For me, some of the phrases I wish I would have used sooner, and I know I wish many of my leaders would have used in the past, were things like, here's what this change looks like specifically for you. The opportunity this creates for you is fill in the blank. What won't change for you is, the whole point of these questions is that we can't just explain why the change is good for the company. It's that we have to help them see how they fit into the change on the other side and how they're impacted by it as well. Because the goal is that we get buy-in for the change on the other side. You can roll out change all day long to your team. You could do it over and over and over again. But if none of them are buying into the change, then that horse is going to be stopping in its tracks. So when you give them this information, then that opens us up to saying, what questions do you have about how this impacts you? Because the thing about bringing them into this conversation is we can't just have one. You can't just have one conversation. The one meeting you have brings them into the loop. But what you do on the other side keeps them in it. Which brings us to step 2. We've shared the change, we've communicated how it impacts them personally, and now in this second step is where we integrate our teams into the change, where we create space for their perspectives. One of the missteps I made moving into this change was assuming that so much of it was on me to figure out, was that my team was looking to me for answers and that it was up to me to give them the answers on the change in the moment, instead of viewing it as a collaborative opportunity for us to find the best way forward. Because everybody on our team has different roles and perspectives and experiences when it comes to seeing this change through to the other side. I could see that there were a lot of opportunities, but what I quickly realized was that my team could see way different opportunities than I could. So I wanted to create a very intentional space where all of us could talk about what we could do with the change on the other side. The cool thing about this step is it unknowingly and or maybe covertly creates space to really navigate the resistance that your team might be experiencing, because they're going to be experiencing resistance. Maybe, potentially, a really good chance for it. So why not give them a space where we can talk about what our opportunities are and ideas that they have, because we may create some solutions to problems that you don't even know exist. But we also get to illuminate the problems in these conversations. So for us, what it looked like was scheduling another meeting, which we will have next week, where I asked everybody to prepare answers to specific questions. The first question was, what strengths do you have that could lend themselves to this change that we currently aren't utilizing to the fullest potential? The second question that I had was, what are we doing that you feel like we aren't doing well enough, or we could be doing differently, or we shouldn't be doing at all? And then what are we not doing that you think we should be doing? We set aside an hour and a half for this meeting because I want their perspective in this change that we're going through. I want to be able to plug in their specific ideas, the opportunities they view for us on the other side, and we're going to be able to use those to also map out their roles as we move forward. I want to integrate them into this change. Your system doesn't have to look like that. It really doesn't. It can look like one-on-one conversations. You can come up with your own questions. But really the goal here in step 2 is to be able to remind ourselves that we have blind spots too as leaders. There are things that I can't see, which thank goodness. If I could see everything, if I had the same exact perspective as every single team member on our team, that would be the most ridiculous hierarchical team makeup. These individuals that I hired that are highly skilled and capable, they have their own perspectives. And those perspectives are going to be able to help us through this change if I let them. And your team can do the same thing. You just have to create space to actually integrate them into the change and be able to take their perspectives to make us go further and faster together on the other side of the change. And here we land the plane in the third step, which is probably the hardest, honestly. And it is where we create space for resistance and honor it. What this means is reminding ourselves as leaders that even though our goal on the other side of any change is that we get buy-in, that it's not always a clear journey from communicating the change to getting our team's buy-in. There can be resistance that happens in it. And it's not always because our teams are being obstinate. It's because our brains are quite literally wired to resist. I love the research done by Dr. David Rock. His research gifted us with this knowledge of what happens when change is placed in front of people and how our brains are looking for threats or opportunities in those scenarios. And they're looking for threats or opportunities in 5 specific areas he found. He calls it the SCARF model. SCARF stands for S is status, where do I stand? C is certainty, do I know what to expect? A is autonomy. Do I have control? R is relatedness. My relationship to others. Do I belong? And then F is fairness. Is this fair for me or other people? What that means for you as a leader and me as a leader is that when we roll out change, whether we like it or not, our people's brains are scanning for those 5 areas. What's happening to my status? What's happening to certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness? And so knowing that, of course we're going to have resistance. There are going to be some changes where we can't check every single box, that there are going to be what feels like threats on the other side for our individuals. And we can't always fill in those gaps as leaders. We can do the best that we possibly can by communicating, by bringing our team along through the change. But the reality is sometimes it's going to take time for our team members to feel safe in the change themselves. But that's just it. It's going to take time. And so the best thing that we can do is just make sure that we create, 1, the space for that to happen, knowing that it might take time for us to gain buy-in. And then 2, doing the best that we can to become a steady support through this change. That means continuing to have conversations, recognizing when there is resistance, sharing things like, I can tell that this is hard for you and I'm here to help you. Here's how I'm going to do it. The big thing here that I think we have to rewire as leaders is that resistance does not always equate to defiance. Resistance doesn't mean that they won't get on board someday. It just means that they're experiencing barriers to being able to jump on board, and they need the time to be able to work through those with your support on the other side. Your job as a leader is not to eliminate resistance. It's to be steady through it. It's to continue our one-on-ones. It's to have check-ins. It's to remind our teams the opportunities for the change. It's to acknowledge sometimes the hard pieces of change. When we communicate change and we get to say that there's an opportunity, sometimes it's equally important to acknowledge what we're losing, especially if it's hard to see the opportunity on the other side. And so the best thing we can do is not try and rush through resistance. It's to allow the space to exist and make sure that we're existing with our people through the change. I have to be able to do that. You have to be able to do that. I need that from the leaders that I'm reporting to. But in order to do it, we have to be able to rewrite this idea that we need our teams to jump on board the minute that we roll out change, and instead flip it to the real story, which is that change is hard and our brains are trying to keep us safe. You can help. You can help keep them safe too by becoming a steady support with them through the change. Not dropping the change like a bomb and then hightailing it out of there. It's staying in the trenches with them until they're ready to crawl out on the other side. That's how you create space for resistance. Well, what are you waiting for? Download their leader guide and give these a shot. Just don't forget, you're like me, you're human. We're going to get this right sometimes, and we're going to get it wrong. The best thing you can do is when you realize you're starting to fumble the football, do the best you can to get back on track. That's what I did. I don't know that I nailed it, but I'm trying. And I think that's the most important thing that we as leaders can do. And I can tell you for 100% that that's what your people want from you too. Thanks for listening to Dear Leaders Love Your People. Don't forget to download our leader guide, leave us a review, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. It'll be delivered straight to your inbox every week we go live.